Hello, it is Thursday, the 10th of March. I'm Connor Hamilton, and this is the Seasiders Podcast Thursday night preview show. We're here to look forward to Saturday's game, where the mighty Pool will host Swansea City, and where we'll hope to make it 3 wins on the bounce. As ever, we're joined by a wonderful fellow fan from the opposition corner to help us look forward to the match. And this week we have the distinct pleasure of being joined once again by Luke from SwansCast. Welcome, Luke.
Hello, and thank you for having me again. Good to be back.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. You know, the clamour from the audience was, we want Luke back, and we are but their humble servants.
Happy to be of service.
And then to give the view on all things Blackpool, we're also joined by Mr. Joe Averton, a star, it seems, of Nathan Fogg's upcoming Blackpool FC book, How Not to Run a Football Club.
If by star you mean my name appears in the book once, then yes.
It is better than me. Nothing to be sniffed at. Every celebrity begins somewhere. Seasiders fans, that book will be out next week, and the Seasiders pod team will be reviewing it on a pod near you soon. But for now,
I will say I have to recommend it highly to any football fan that's curious as to the goings-on at Blackpool Football Club. Basically, from when we got to the Premier League to now, because even some things I wasn't aware with cropped up in that book. It's a hell of a read, hell of an eye-opener. Made me think, how the hell did we survive the last 10 years under that lot? I'm not even going to say their names because I get shivers thinking about that family. I just hope that all of them are having an absolute terrible time at the minute. But yeah, definitely check out the book. It's fantastic work from Nathan. And every Blackpool fan and every football fan in general needs to give it a read.
Fair enough. So that is Joe's early review. I must admit I concur. But there will be some more lengthy thoughts on the book, hopefully coming to a pod near you. For now, it's usual preview show format. We'll start with some wonderful questions for our guest Luke, before moving on to selecting our respective teams, or me and Joe picking our team, Blackpool sides, for the upcoming match. I've just seen we've got Wayne in the chat, who is a Fulham fan and thinks that Blackpool win against Swansea. Luke, you can't escape these Fulham fans. You know, they're so happy with their win in the midweek.
Can I just say, yeah, they got a good win, the top of the league. They put in a lot of goals past a lot of people. But if you're sitting top of the league and you're happy with that first half performance and you're going to come shouting about it, then, yeah, I don't know what to say, really, because they were average for the first 40 minutes until the red card changed the game. I'm not saying we were necessarily going to go on to win the game, and we didn't make an abundance of chances, but neither did they. It was you couldn't tell they were top of the league. I'm not saying that we looked like the team top of the league, but they were nothing special until we had a man sent off. All of a sudden, they decided they wanted to come out and play football then. And obviously, we conceded a few goals, but I'm taking heart from that first half performance. So if he's basing the result on the fact that he thinks we're going to go and lose the next game, I'm not really sure where he's got that from, but yeah.
Well, Luke, clearly still sensitive about that loss. Blackpool, at least we agree with your initial assessment here. I think we've taken 5 points off for them so far this season. So healthy level of disrespect of them. But Wayne, welcome. Pleasure to have you. Luke, when we last spoke in November, I think it's probably fair to say that you weren't quite sold on the Russell Martin philosophy yet. And you described it as kind of a lot of passing football without an end product.
Yeah.
Is that still the case?
It's got it's gone up and down since quite a few times, actually. I personally am happy with being patient and kind of giving the time. So next season, I'll probably be a bit more critical if we're having a lot of the same problems. We are where we are at the moment, I think, this season, kind of in a bit of no man's land in the middle of the table, I think. So it is about kind of getting it right to have another crack next year. And we definitely see positive signs. The last couple of results, they've been good. The first half against Fulham, that was like a continuation. The result on paper looks bad, but in terms of obviously when it mattered in that game, when it was a competition, we were giving them a good game on the top of the league, and they're flying up there. Fair play to them. But we were giving them a good game. And for us, who have recently been battered by the likes of Sheffield United, Stoke, away performances that were really quite dismal for us, that was good to see. We kind of have learned some things, have started playing a bit better. Went to West Brom and got an away win there, which, as much as their form has been a bit poor, they are still a team that's come down from the Premier League last season. So yeah, on the up, I think. Long process. There's some players that when they're out, you notice they're out. So obviously, we'll see what the team is on the weekend. I'm not sure if we picked up any more knocks, but we won't have Ryan Manning available, and he's somebody that's been in the team pretty much all season. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who comes in there instead. And the defence is probably the most important part, where when one player leaves out of the regular team, you do see a bit of a drop off. So a bit worried about that, I'll be honest. But yeah, we'll wait and see on that one.
Fair enough. So you're mentioning key personnel there. There's some clear talent in the side in terms of Patterson, Perot, Grimes, I guess in more recent weeks, Obafemi. And you've also been able to kind of swing together some good results recently. I think it's 3 wins in 5, 4 victories in the last 7, if you're excluding that understandable loss against Fulham.
Yeah.
Who and what are the kind of magic formula behind that run of results?
Kyle Norton is very important, and you're probably perhaps surprised to hear me say his name, but the bad form, especially away from home, he's not in the defence. He plays in the middle of the back three, which again, maybe some fans would be like, Kyle Norton's a right back, like he's been right back all his career. He's kind of transitioned into the middle in recent seasons, and in this kind of passing football, keeping the ball playing from the back, he's been so important in like kind of steadying the ship at the back for us, keeping a calm presence, being a bit more experienced. And he's a bit more athletic than some of the other defenders, considering his age as well, which is important. So he's got a couple of attributes that are important for this style. When he wasn't in the team and we had maybe Bennett was there or Cabango with someone else, whether that was Burns or even Latabodia, like it just doesn't work the same. It can be exploited a lot easier. Teams kind of get at us a lot more. They're panicking on the ball a bit more, and it's very noticeable. So he is vital. Matt Grimes, I think, goes without saying. He's the captain, so everything goes through him. His range of passing is Premier League level, I think. Like there's one player in the team that could probably jump up the league and settle in easy. I think he's very underrated in some aspects. I know he is highly rated, but he also sometimes goes under the radar and how much he actually gets through in a match. So I'm continuously impressed by what he outputs for us. And if you're looking at the attack, Michael Obafemi is probably the one to watch at the moment. Joe Perot is the top goal scorer. Obafemi, who signed him in the summer, he had the first half of the season where he couldn't really get in the team. Didn't look like he was fitting into Swansea, maybe like a signing that wasn't going to work out. But the last month, 2 months, something's clicked there. He's been working hard behind the scenes and he's come on now. He's playing with Perot and Patterson. And all of a sudden, there's a new dimension to our attack where Perot's dropped back a little bit. He's not necessarily playing as the striker role. And Obafemi's making runs in behind, which is something we didn't have before. And that little bit of pace has added a new dimension to our attack. So it's something that we've utilised quite well recently. He's got a couple of goals, and I'm excited to see that partnership continue to build.
Hey, Luke. I remember earlier on in the season, the game at your place that finished 1-1. I was very impressed with the brand of football that you played. There were times where you footballed us to death. One of the very rare occasions where a referee was actually on our side. I remember that you had an absolute nailed-on penalty when James Husband went through one of your players. Typical EFL standard of refereeing, being absolutely shambolic. At that point in the season, you were just outside or on the cusp of getting into the playoffs. Do you think, not a case of what's gone wrong, but do you think that maybe COVID playing a factor, games getting rearranged, kind of stopped your momentum from earlier on in the season because you were looking a really, really good team and a solid bet to finish inside the top 6?
Yeah, COVID is definitely a factor. That game, I remember I was actually at the stadium, and I think Joe Perot scored a hell of a goal in that one. But
Absolutely fantastic.
we still haven't had a penalty this season, believe it or not. So you're saying about the referees, maybe there's something going on there. I don't want to say too much, but
usually they hate us as well.
It's anti-Welsh bias in the EFL.
Well, that's it. So you're saying usually they hate you, so that you came to a Welsh team and all of a sudden they don't hate you anymore. So I'm joking. I'm not here to say there's any favouritism, but yeah. So I think it was Ethan Laird that got brought down, but it was frustrating to draw that game. I think you came back in the second half, and you couldn't argue with a draw. But I think from a Swansea perspective, we should have probably won the game. But fair play to you guys coming back. You did the job, and after you went 1-0 down, you did start trying to come and get the point. You deserved it in the end. In terms of our momentum afterwards, we did have a really good period there where we started looking like, oh, maybe we can start challenging for the playoffs. I remember fans were starting to talk about it a bit more, whereas this season the expectations weren't necessarily to get there, which is dangerous because we're kind of in a position we thought we were at the start of the season, but because we had that sort of lull where we might have done better. When we started doing bad afterwards, everyone went to the other extreme and was like, it's not working. We need to get the manager out and stuff. Love football, didn't you? But yeah, so COVID played a factor, but we did have a couple of games before Christmas that we lost like 4 in a row or something before we had a sort of outbreak of COVID in our squad, which I think we had 4 or 5 games cancelled or something altogether. And then you had the mixed in where the Welsh government stopped the fans coming to the stadium, a lot of negativity and stuff in the area, I guess. A couple of blows in the January transfer window. Ethan Laird got recalled like straight away. We didn't necessarily get all the targets that we wanted. Again, a lot of negativity coming from all that together. Our squad depth is probably the other major factor alongside COVID. So, as I said earlier, when certain key personnel come out of the team, there's not really anyone to step in and do the same job in some positions. It's not that we can't put someone there. It's this new style of play. We aren't a full package in terms of every player fits into this system right now. We need to think a couple of transfer windows for Russell Martin to get in players that can do the job he's asking them to do to the same level, whether that's the person starting or the person coming off the bench. And we're not there yet. So there's people that will come on to replace first team players, and they're just not quite the same. And you can tell, it's noticeable. So yeah, a mixture of those things, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster for us. But and that's what I come back to saying. You can see the good, where it could go really well if we get it right going into next season, a couple more signings. But then we've also seen the really ugly as well. So that's not pretty to watch. And away days have been primarily the suspects there. So I'm hoping it's not a repeat on the weekend.
I think I read a statistic online that behind Manchester City, Swansea City are the team with the biggest percentage of ball retention in the whole of England. Well, I say England, the English leagues.
Yeah.
Would you rather like a little bit more route one and maybe go a bit more, instead of the pretty style of play, be a bit more ruthless, be a bit more cutting through the thirds and trying to shoot on sight a bit more? Or do you think it's sticking with Russell Martin's philosophy and this being more of a year of transition?
It's an interesting question because it goes back to the debate everyone had in the summer where people had enough of Steve Cooper and wanted him out. But you could argue, like, at the end of the day, regardless of what football he was playing, he was successful, 2 playoff finishes in a row. And they wanted to go back to this Swansea way of old, of passing football, which we have done. And it's not been instant success, which it was never going to be. And you've got to be patient with it. But like I said, when we had the bad period, all of a sudden, Steve Cooper's doing well at Nottingham Forest. And, we shouldn't have got rid of him. We should have kept him. It's like, well, look, you've got to be patient. If you've asked for the style of football and that's our identity of the past and you want to get back to it, then I'm all for it. And I think you have to be patient with it. And the only way you're going to improve and get things right is if you give it time, you learn from the mistakes and grow from there. However, there are periods where I think maybe we should adapt our game plan slightly to suit the situation. Russell Martin is kind of, we're going to play our way. We're going to play this system. We're not going to focus on the opposition. We're going to do what we are doing. And that's how it is. Whereas in some circumstances, sometimes I think there is room for adjusting that, even if it's in the middle of a game. So the Fulham game, for example, second half, we go down to 10 men. You need to change it up at that point and maybe even settle for a 0-0. They're passing around to the back from kick-off and they lose the ball and we go 1-0 down within 30 seconds after half-time. All of a sudden, mountain of a task to get back into that game. And that's where I think a message, yeah, this is how we play football. Circumstances today have changed and now we need to adapt and do some things different. So I think he's still a young manager, maybe learning, and maybe he's a little bit naive sometimes. But again, if you're going to take the risk with someone like that, you've got to see through those moments to get over the other side, because he's not going to be. I'm not saying he's going to get to Pep Guardiola, but Pep Guardiola didn't get to where he is like overnight, did he? So
no, he began at one of the world's most prestigious academies, then played for that team, then was pretty much immediately promoted to manager. I know you're
saying Russell Martin playing for Norwich and Celtic isn't as good.
Well, if they ever give him a budget the size that Pep Guardiola had, then I'm sure we'll be in a great position.
Yeah.
But
maybe he wasn't the best example, but you get you know what I mean.
Yeah, that point around adaptation is really important, because Michael's pointing out in the comment there around how Neil Critchley, when his first start, his full season at Blackpool, first full season, kept trying to play his 4-2-3-1 kind of shape, pretty football, just never really quite worked. And then over time moved more towards a 4-4-2, the kind of style that, I think have seen us get into the Championship and establish ourselves in the Championship. And even though you can tell he still has this instinct to go back to a 4-2-3-1, periodically, and he tries to buy players that will fit that system, the 4-4-2 still reigns supreme and has done pretty well for us so far. You met Joe. I think Joe mentioned the reverse fixture, and you did as well. Mentioned that excellent Perrault goal. You mentioned Perrault. Is now playing alongside Obafemi. Obafemi is kind of a more conventional striker, and Perrault a bit deeper. That worries me. I remember what Perrault did in the last game with that wonderful goal outside the box, and the idea that he's now in those positions more often, quite frightens me. How we've heard about, you talked about how Obafemi's really come on and earned his place inside, but how is Perrault playing and adjusting to that move? Because just as a rival fan, that seems like a cause for concern for me.
I think he's probably still our main threat. He's our top goal scorer for a reason. And he has had to move potentially to accommodate Obafemi. But I think it's not necessarily that, but it's getting them both on the pitch gives our attack more. And Joe Perrault's goals this season, most of them have actually come from outside the box. So taking him not necessarily away from the striker role potentially isn't a bad thing, as you said. So he's got a bit more space. Sometimes it falls to him and he can get a goal, like the goal he scored in the other fixture. He's one of those players that doesn't necessarily need 10 chances to score one goal. He might only get 1 or 2 in a game, and he's clinical and he'll put it in. So he's not always the most involved in the game, and you might maybe not think he's not playing the best today, but he'll just pop up with a goal, and he did against Fulham in the week, even though we lost. So yeah, definitely dangerous. I think you're right to perhaps be a bit worried about what he can offer there, but I think historically he can play an attacking midfield role. A lot of Swansea fans have made comparisons with Michu, if you remember him from the Premier League days, because he was a number 10, behind the striker, who did play sometimes striker for us, but he was always at his best when he was playing off a striker. And I think with Obafemi being somebody that's fast and can get in behind, and so when I've watched them the other day, the runs they make together, Obafemi is going along the line, and then Perrault is in that gap behind the defence where there's a bit of space. I think that could work really well, especially as they work together more, and he's able to get on the ball a bit more. He could definitely be more dangerous. So I'm hoping that what you're saying is good and a cause for concern, and we see more of it. It's nice to hear that, I guess.
Yeah, Michael pointing out in the comments again that what I thought when I saw that goal, which is Callum Connolly, our right back, centre back, who seems to be playing more as a defensive midfielder, was maybe not at his best that game. And really kind of the other thing I really remember from that game is Keshi Anderson equalising with an almost equally outrageous goal that just kind of like span and curled, like looked quite slow past the keeper.
Yeah.
But it was just
Was
so
it from the
much
corner?
I think it was a third phase of play after the corner or something like that.
I was going to say we very rarely score from corners, so I probably would have remembered that. Luckily for you, Keshi's one of our number of walking wounded at the minute, and absolutely no chance of him being ready for Saturday's game. So that's a shame.
We got a bit of a predicament ourselves at left back. As I said, Manning's out. Hans Wolf has been away, I believe, as a personal bereavement. So he's back home. I think that's why he's gone. We're not sure when he's back. So I don't know who's going to play left. We played for a back against Fulham. I don't think we'll go down that route here. But I don't know who will be there. Maybe Corey Smith. But
whoever it is will probably have to deal with informed Josh Bowler.
Is that why you're rubbing your hands?
Yeah.
He's hit a real
Josh Bowler is
going
to feast.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully, if it is Corey Smith, which I think it might be, he did well against Coventry, so hopefully he can do a good job, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't. I always prefer somebody who is a left wing back to play left wing back, not a central midfielder. But we'll see what happens.
Well, it is very difficult, like you say, with COVID and injuries and just the sheer amount of games that have mounted up in the Championship. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. This month we've got 3 games, and then in April we've got 8 because of the international break. And
that's a lot.
We've a rearranged game with Barnsley that we should have played during the Christmas period, and I'm sure it'll be pretty similar to yourselves having to rearrange games with the likes of Bournemouth and whatnot. It's very, very difficult for all teams. We're all kind of in the same boat as far as fixture pile-ups and injuries are concerned.
Yeah, we've made a couple of hours back in the last couple of weeks, but we still got 1 or 2, I think. There's some teams on 36, isn't there? So we're on 34 at the moment. So, yeah.
But if you've got central midfielders playing at left wing back, that is excellent to hear for us. And
we've had that all season. Like players like Ryan Manning left back playing centre back, Kyle Norton right back playing centre back, Joe Latabodia centre back playing left back. It's been one of them years for us, so you probably will be licking your lips.
We've also seen it with those who won't be named at Deepdale, who play Brad Potts, who's meant to be a midfielder, terrible footballer, terrible human being. They also play him at like wing back for some reason. Baffling. Question here from David, Luke, and then we'll move on to kind of, just score and match predictions for the match itself. Sunny 7 degrees, not much wind. I imagine that'll suit Swansea's style.
I don't know if the ever deteriorating pitch will. Were you at the game against Reading? It looked marginally better than it did under our previous owners. Let's put it that way. I think the recent storms have done a real number on it, and looking a little bit heavy, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean the weather conditions, if it's like settled, nice weather, calm, obviously going to suit us. But having a bit of a rough pitch, maybe not so much. So yeah, I mean we want to play on the floor, and pass the ball, keep the ball, play it round. So anything that's going to cause disruption to that on the floor is not going to be good for us. I don't know. We'll have to see. Hopefully the groundsman's working hard, eh?
I'm sure he'll have the sprinklers on like he did before the Reading game.
Sprinklers are good, though. We sprinkle our pitch before we play. It helps the ball pass better.
I'm thinking we go the exact opposite. I think we send the ground people out with pitchforks to just rough it up a little bit. We punt it long to Gary Medina game. It'll be grand. Joe, your mic is crackling slightly. Do some tweaks. I blame John. He's given you faulty equipment, clearly.
Is that?
Still not great. But Luke, in the meantime, there will be almost 2,000 away fans this weekend, I think I've seen on your social media. I think it's 1,850.
Yeah.
Will you be joining them?
I really wanted to go to this one, I'll be honest, but I'm not going to be able to, unfortunately. It's one of those with away games. I got a pre-plan, book the time off work, and really annoyingly, I got given a weekend off kind of for free, which I wasn't expecting. And I didn't manage to organise getting up there, especially with the... it's going to sound too realistic at the moment, but it's the petrol prices and all the rest of it. It's hard to do it off the cuff. We need like a full car to kind of justify it. It's a bit of a long trip, but I wanted to go up. My initial season expectation when I saw the fixture list, it was Blackpool away, get to Blackpool Pleasure Beach, have a nice day out up there, go out on the town or whatever, but not to be this year, maybe next year. I mean, I have just had my wedding, so I'm going to say cost-wise as well. That's kind of fleeced me a little bit. So yeah, a bit of a distance that I couldn't make this time, but hopefully next year.
Well, congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Moving on to potentially even more exciting topics. What is your score prediction for the weekend?
I think I'm quite happy with our recent form. Even though our away recent form hasn't been great, I feel like we turned a corner at West Brom. Something seems to have clicked. We had a nice little gap when the Bournemouth game got cancelled, and I think it feels and looks a lot better at the moment. Take away the second half against Fulham, there's circumstances there that that happened in the end or whatever. I think we can go on here and build from that first half display from the two games, Coventry and West Brom, and I think we're going to give it a good go. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Swansea. Big call.
Bold, given your away form.
It is. Joe, it's bold, but I've got a feeling that we've turned a corner and we're going to have a nice, good end to the season.
All right. Well, we will see.
Joe, and if it doesn't happen, you don't know who I am. You've never spoken to me ever.
Yeah. Well, we'll find the next podcast you're on and be there in the YouTube comment section, just reminding you.
That's fine. I'll own it.
Yeah. Joe, do you agree? What's your take on the Saturday's match?
I think it'll be a tough game. I've got a lot of respect for the way that Swansea play football. They play in the right way on the ground. They've got some very dangerous players offensively. My one bit of light in this game is the fact that Bowler's in good form and he's going to be going up against a makeshift right back / right wing back. So I think we're really sounding like Josh Bowler FC these days, aren't we? It's going to be really bad next season when he goes for about 6 or 7 million, but there you go. I think if Bowler has a good game, if you can get at the makeshift fullback, then I think we might just squeak it 2-1. But it could also be a 1-1 draw. They're a decent team, and we're going to have to really be on our game defensively because they've got some very, very decent forwards and midfielders.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think my heart wants to say 2-0. Like, for some reason, it just has a good feeling about this game. But like you, I think 2-1's probably the likely result. With our latest injuries, Richard Keogh's out. Looks like Jordan Thornley, is doubtful. It looks like our centre-back pairing might be Ekpiteta and Ollie Casey. And
I completely forgot about Thornley, where he got absolutely GBH'd by Manja, the dirty so-and-so.
Yeah. Was there any punishment? No. After the game and decided not to.
They looked at it and went, no, it's absolutely perfectly fine to punch somebody in the shoulder when they're not looking behind the back. Play on.
If it's a Swansea player, would have had 2 red cards for that.
Just try it with a local ref near you next time you're on the pitch. I always think that should be the rule. If this happened to the referee and they were playing football, would they give it? But yeah, so because we've got another makeshift backline, now maybe don't back us to keep a clean sheet, but with Josh Bowler on such form, makeshift left back in the Swansea defence that he can run at. And also, I don't know, I just feel like there's going to be a Gary goal. It feels like Gary scoring against Swansea is just great for the narrative because he's just not a technical player. He's not a footballer. He's a head baller, and he's very brilliant at it.
Gary Medine.
Yeah,
Is he ex-Cardiff?
he is.
Yeah.
Well, there we are. I thought he was, and yeah, would be written in the script. So
So I'm going to say 2-1 with a Josh Bowler goal and a Gary Medine goal. We're at the half hour, Luke. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us your time straight after work.
No problem. Always happy to come on when I can get in. Yeah, just hope that comments don't come back to bite me, I guess. But yeah, that's all part of the fun, innit?
It is
Exactly.
indeed. And if they do, we'll certainly let you know.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
If you do have any comments before the game on Saturday, after the game on Saturday, you can direct them to Luke at SwansCast Media on Twitter, and also give him a follow while you're at it.
Yeah, come and tell me how wrong I am, or maybe right, or maybe you probably won't do it if it's right with you. So,
I'm far more magnanimous in victory. I won't rub it in at all. Unless you support Preston, then
no,
never ever hear the end of it.
Well, thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of your podcast. I'll see you next time.
All the best, Luke. Take care, mate.
Good luck for the weekend.
Bye. All right. And now onto the team selection. Joe, I wondered if we might do it slightly differently this week, seeing as there's only two of us.
Go on.
Where you pick your team, I'll pick my team, and we'll see. We'll put both out onto social media and see which one is best.
Okay. In net.
Well, whoa, I've got to bring the file up first. Oh, very eager for this tournament now. Grand. There we go. All right. In nets.
Grimshaw.
All right. And your back line?
My back line will be Gabriel at right back.
Okay.
Centre back pairing, it's going to have to be because of your reminding me.
Is Gabriel fit?
Oh, no, he isn't.
No.
Oh, God.
I'm going to bring my injury news up. So
you're right. I completely forgot
fit.
about Gabriel as well.
Yeah, he's got a hamstring issue. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Damn, we are knackered at the back, aren't we?
Yeah.
Is it going to have to be Connolly at right back? I think it might.
No. Oh. Back to the heady days of first 3 games of the season.
Right. Connolly at right back. No, actually, I'm going to be more sensible. I'm going to go Dujon Sterling at right back, Reece James at left back, and I'm going to go a centre-back pairing of Big Marv, and it's got to be Casey.
Yeah. There we are.
He doesn't.
He's in the midfield here for some reason.
Midfield for some reason. Okay. Midfield picks itself. Bowler, Stewart, Dougal, and CJ.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's not picking Bowler needs to get their brain checked. I don't know. I guess if they've got they're always leaving space in behind because they're a possession-based side. Counter-attacking with CJ makes sense, and Stewart was imperious last time out.
It's good that he's getting a run of games. I just hope that he carries it on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and he's going to get injured in like 15 minutes when he plays for Jamaica next.
Why would you bring that into the universe? Why would you even bring that up? Up front, obviously, Gary Medine.
Okay.
And his partner, I'm going to go for Jerry Yates. Purely on the link-up play for the goal away at Stoke. Again, nothing against Lavery. Really like him. I just think this is a Yates and Medine type game.
Yeah, and I also think that with I think Yates offers you a slightly more sophisticated press than Lavery. Like Lavery is very, very good at running, but so is Jerry. And I think Jerry's just got that experience about how to make it slightly more impactful.
What would you do then? Would you change any of this team, given the personnel that's available?
I think my only thing is that Husband is a potential to return, it seems.
I can't see him starting if he is.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any chance of him starting.
Yeah. The only other thing I think Critchley might do is Michael says is rather than actually go free in midfield, I think he might go free at the back to kind of match Swansea's shape, but I'm not bold enough to pick that yet. I think the only thing I would suggest is that with the fixture congestion and the fact we haven't really seen a lot of him, and given that Swansea do play out from the back that so much and it needs to be a really, really tight, very, very mobile press, I can see a case for starting Jake Beasley over Gary Medine, but I don't think Critch is going to do that. And I think that might be an off the bench option if the press just really isn't working, because Beasley's a little bit more mobile.
I was going to say, I don't think Mitch would like that either, to be honest.
No. I don't think I'm ever going to be allowed in cult Gaz at this rate.
I mean, I do get where you're coming from, and I do agree with you. I mean, I think if any game recently we were going to see Beasley start, I thought it would have been QPR away, but unfortunately it didn't happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't understand what he needs to do to have that start. He seems to be locked in the dungeon. I think the only thing I'm going to do, because to make it slightly more interesting, I'm going to put Connolly at right back, as John is suggesting. Put Sterling at left back. It's not Club Gaz, John. It's Cult Gaz, and I think I might put Owen Dale on the left. Just because he's a tricky little technical player. And that will be my team. And yours will win because you've got more fan favourites in there, Joe.
Not necessarily.
David saying the real question is who is on the bench?
That is a very, very good question.
The kit man, you know.
Beasley, Lavery for starters. Dale, Husband, if he is indeed fit enough to be in the squad. Stuart Moore. After that, I'm struggling. Maybe Cameron Antwi, if he's about, if he's not on loan.
Connolly, probably, because he can play in midfield if needed, yeah.
Yeah, struggling a little bit, aren't we? Especially in the defensive areas.
Yeah. Oh, well.
At least we've got... Is there an international break after this?
Let me have a look at the fixture list now. Dum, bum, bum.
I'm pretty sure that there is...
Quality knowledge. Yeah, the next game... We've got Sheffield on the 16th, and then our next game after that is 2nd of April, so...
Right, so there's one more game after this. Yeah. So 2 games with a makeshift defence, one of them being against a very decent attacking Swansea City and the other being against red-hot Sheffield United. Excellent stuff.
I really want to beat Paul Heckingbottom. I don't know why. I just don't like the fella.
Your favourite team, Sheffield?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it when we play Sheffield. Not to be confused with the other team that play in Sheffield that we don't actually have any opportunity to talk about because they play in a completely different division. But still, I recognise that I recognise that the distinction between the two Sheffields is indeed important to many listeners. I would like to apologise for referring to Sheffield as Sheffield in previous pods.
I don't think that was sincere.
No, it very much was not. This is the hill I will die on, mainly because some of the listeners might kill me. You can also decide to berate us on other topics, such as these teams we'll be putting out on social media afterwards. In the meantime, please do your best to enjoy the game. And we'll see you all for the next episode.
Up the pool.
Up the pool.